Okay, again, good morning, good afternoon to my Peruvian colleagues, and it's a pleasure to be here to speak about something that is very important for my country, for my university, and for me personally, which is actually not only the architecture, but also the arts and the cultural expressions of Peru as a country. And I'm going to speak for a brief moment, actually. I'm gonna title this Brief Intro to an Ancestral Culture. When thinking about Peru, culturally speaking, we have like in China, almost everywhere, a number of expressions to choose from. The first, of course, ceramics. This is, for example, a bottle representing a whale from ancient Nazca culture. This is like pre-Inca culture, very, very old, relatively speaking. We have textiles. This is, for example, not a dress, like a poncho, we would say in Spanish, from the Wari culture. This is from alpaca wool, very colorful, as you can see, and structure, very modern in a way. And we also have other kind of things. This is an utilitarian instrument. This is a quipu, which is a sort of abacus, but also a way to record information, numbers, and transactions and stuff like that. And of course, magnificent architecture. The most well-known of all of it is Machu Picchu, as you can see in here. So just to have an idea, Peru is considered a medium-sized country. Of course, comparing it to China, we're quite small, but it's also a very, I would say, complicated country in terms of the geography and the distribution of space. It's not a country that has an agricultural vocation. So it's something that it needs to be transformed in order to be welcoming to the human population, in order to be useful for agriculture, for living, for whatever. So it's a territory that has to be, let's say, tamed, transformed in order to be occupied. And that means that we have a long tradition, I mean long, in the transformation of the territory and the space, in order not only to construct architecture, but also to actually live there and to have resources to sustain life, like food and, like I said, agriculture, but also irrigation and the transformations of space. Now that I'm seeing these images, these are andenes or agricultural terraces. Actually, I can think of a number of other references. I'm sure you in China have an idea of what this kind of thing means in terms of territory. So anyway, but not all the territory can work with andenes. So we have to think of different things. We have subterranean, long channels of irrigation under the desert, for example. All the coast to the Pacific is a desert, like Atacama more to the south. And in the Andes, in the top of most parts of the Andes, where there are icings and moments of very cold, we have to transform the territory also with this kind of construction we call with waru-waru, which means that some spaces can be protected from ice by having this kind of treatment. This is around Lake Titicaca, by the way. And also we have transformations, but that are not only for strict agricultural purposes, but also to experiment. For example, this is Moraes around Cusco. And we have here spaces that are cultivated, for example, with more sun, with spaces always in the shadow, spaces at different altitudes, to experiment with crops and with the growing of things. And this way, architecture and territory are the same, are indistinguishable. And that means that we construct the territory too. That's what I'm trying to say. And this also can be seen in other kinds of transformation. This is, for example, also around Cusco, Maras. This is a salar, a place to, let's say, harvest salt from the earth. Also using this kind of technology, let's say, of terraces that evaporate and remains with this kind of things, this kind of crystals, salt crystals. Okay, during Inca times, one of the most interesting things about the whole empire of the Incas was its connectivity. That means that they knew the territory and they knew how to move in it, and they knew how to take advantage of the different spaces and the different forms which the territory and the living took place in these areas. For example, we have spaces in the coast that are adaptable to some kind of agriculture. We have spaces in the Andes that are for different things, to, I don't know, to keep food fresh, for example, that had altitudes, and etc. Incas knew the territory and they used it in the different spaces and in the different levels. And the way to do this, it was using the connectivity of these kind of road systems. We call it in Quechua, Capacñan, which the Spanish translated as the royal road, but it's more of a connection thing. It's not a royal thing. It was used by the emissaries of the Inca, of course, but also for everyday communication and contact between different areas of the territory. We have remains of this immense system of roads of every kind, and also we have some vernacular architecture that maintains spaces in this system of roads. This is, for example, the Queshuachaca Bridge in the south of what is now Peru, that it's redone, remade every year by the communities that still live around the area. And it's also interesting to see how the technique, the construction, the materials haven't changed in more than 1,000 years. So it's interesting to see how this remains, let's say, in the architectural tradition, because this is architecture, of course, and how it has adapted to modern world. But of course, we are here to see more of architecture, and we're going to discuss a number of buildings that are pre-Inca first, and then, of course, Incas. The geography heavily conditionates the way we did architecture in pre-colonial times. This is, for example, a pyramid. It looks like a small mountain, actually, but it is a pyramid made of, it's artificial. It's made out of clay, let's say clay bricks. We call it adobe, which are uncooked clay bricks, let's say. And they are distributed. I don't know if the picture allows you to see it. They are organized like a library. They have like little shelves made out of clay too, and all the units of construction are placed like this. This is an idea that is supposed to work against seismic movements, so earthquakes and stuff like that. And it's interesting to see that this was a concern of the population of these pre-colonial times. Of course, there are other kind of signs, let's say, in the territory that are not really architectural. For example, the famous Nazca lines, you can see an example here, that are huge, immense, and not made to be seen by persons, by the people, but made to be seen only by the gods. We don't know exactly how these were made, in the sense not only of the materiality of the thing, but mostly about the design. What was the purpose of it? It was only a picture to be seen from the sky that they cannot see at that point in time, or what were they? So it's interesting to see that we are discovering new things about this kind of possibilities, this kind of resources of the ancient populations. This is my final picture, and I want to show you, this is where I live, actually. This is my building. You can see this very modern Lima city with all the buildings and stuff. This is, by the way, Lima is the only capital city of South America that looks towards the Pacific. You can see here the Pacific. And you also can see these kind of things. These are huacas. This is a huaca Pucllana, actually, is the name, from a pre-Inca culture, not even Inca, before the Incas. This has these walls like a shelf of books that I show you at the beginning of this presentation, placed like this. And it's interesting to see how the very old past works with the present and in a way the future in this kind of modern conditions of Lima, but could be any other city in Peru. The past and the present work together in some ways, not even perfectly, not even exceptionally, but they have to work together. And that's the challenge for us for the coming years, decades, centuries. And that's basically all I have to say today. Thank you.